Hello and welcome to the Tech Beat. I'm James Preston, your tech guide, helping you to navigate the bits and bytes of the World Wide Web and the innovations that abound. In this week's Tech Beat, Australia has decided to team up with NASA for a mission to the moon. Apple also has its Unleashed event, and fake Aussie vaccine passports are reigning supreme. But let's begin our download with a special guest. Technology is changing the way we live our everyday lives, and it's certainly played an enormous part in the evolution of healthcare and wellness. Handy Health simplifies the process of keeping track of your extremely important information regarding medications, records and appointments so that you can get back to enjoying everyday life and quit worrying about all those troublesome details. It's available as an app or also a website, and Handy Health is, in a phrase, really handy for sorting out all of your health concerns. So without further ado, let's now introduce the CEO to take us through the finer points of Handy Health. That is none other than Stephanie Mascarenas. Steph, great to have you here on the show.
Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure to have you here on Cowkind TV. Now, it's a really interesting innovation that you've come up with here. Can you tell me in your own words exactly what it is that Handy Health does?
Yeah, absolutely. So Handy Health is designed to be a comprehensive all-in-one health app, essentially an app to manage the apps. And it's to help people who have chronic conditions or more than one health condition manage the complexities of their health condition. So, like you said, medications, health records, their care team, appointments. So it's really an all-in-one spot to manage your health really easily.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. Now, how did you come up with the concept? Because it's exactly what we need, but it hasn't been in existence for, 20 years now, since it's probably been something we could have done.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, I'm a health professional, clinical physiologist and medical researcher. And when my patients came in to see me, I found that they had a lot of trouble remembering what kind of medications they were taking. They'd often bring in big folders of their records. They didn't know who they were seeing next. So I found that there was a really big gap in their own healthcare journey, which then led to a big gap in the overall healthcare system. And a lot of people, they couldn't connect that, and they don't know what to do next with their health to actually improve it. So I saw this opportunity, and I wanted to be part of something bigger to serve people's health needs.
Well, one thing we've seen recently is, of course, the state government and also federal government was looking to push to a digital record being kept, and a lot of people decided to opt out of that. I think a lot of patients are now familiar with that concept. How would you say yours differs in that approach in terms of the record side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we give the control to the patient. So we're really about empowering the patient to personalize their own healthcare journey, to be part of their decision making, to coordinate with their care team. So Handy Health, separate to government platforms, is a private personal space where people can track and manage their own health and share it with people who they want to share it with.
Yeah, brilliant. Of course, we don't want everyone knowing our medical details, so that makes perfect sense. Now, healthcare and medtech startups seem to be pretty much in unison on this point of working to revolutionise everything from frontline care to genetics, the whole shebang. And I think the pandemic, one thing that has done is it's thrown up a lot of barriers, but it's also provided a lot of opportunities to look at things in a new way, especially when it comes to health and healthcare. So how do you think medtech startups like yours contend with these ever-evolving challenges like the backdrop of the pandemic?
So I think, like you said, the pandemic has provided a really interesting opportunity for health tech startups. People are a lot more in tune with their technology, using QR codes, scanning into venues, utilizing telehealth a lot more. So I think there's a really interesting journey that's kind of begun for digital health startups. And, to utilize that to actually manage, your own personal private health is really, really exciting. And I think also, there's the overall health problems of, chronic disease, multi-morbidity, managing two or more health conditions at the same time. So with all these problems really pertinent in the healthcare system, I think using technology to try to address that is the way forward.
Well, what's your take on personalising digital healthcare when it comes to the offerings of various medtech companies?
Yep. So, like you said, health, it's really personal, it's really private, and it's actually very unique to each person. So, to personalize healthcare should be the fundamental pillar of really any health tech company. Um, with personalization, for example, Handy Health, we're trying to, like I said, empower people to take control of their health and make their own health decisions. So, as part of that, we don't want to follow a cookie cutter approach. We want to put people at the center of their health and make sure that they're, following their personal values, their personal goals, and to really provide a platform where they can track and manage as they want to.
Well, Stephanie, so far we've been talking a lot about patients and their own personal, I suppose, approach to using Handy Health. But have you seen much of an uptake, for example, from nurses and doctors and surgeons who are wanting to get more of an understanding about their patients or potentially even manage their own workload? Is Handy Health having any sort of role for our medical professionals?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really interesting two-edged kind of sword where doctors and health professionals are really interested in health tech. They naturally want their patients to get better and they want them to get better faster. Health professionals are always looking toward new pharmaceutical treatments, behavioral treatments, and I think technology is just the next step forward. With healthcare professionals, we want something for our patients where they just have it in their hand, they can show us their details immediately, and we get a full glimpse of their health. But the other side of that is that naturally technology is not always very easy to use. And when you're dealing with, sometimes an older generation who tend to have more chronic conditions, it's about trying to tie in the technology, the functionality to the user's needs and balance that out really. So I think health professionals really, really excited about it, but a little bit cautious, and we want to see what's good and what really works.
Look, you're 100% correct. My nan still has yet to own a microwave oven because she's concerned about, being able to operate that. Neither of my grandmothers have ever used the internet either. So there is a real teething issue there with some of your older clientele in terms of adopting these changes. But I think you're right. Doctors and medical professionals, they can really help lead the way to transition into that phase there for them. I suppose another question surrounding all this, because we are talking about privacy and it's sensitive personal information, is there a real challenge to provide appropriate cybersecurity around something like Handy Health?
So from the beginning, we've always been focused on cybersecurity. Again, that's one of the pillars of our company, in addition to personalizing healthcare. And with cybersecurity, it's a hard one because everybody wants to have really, really secure systems, but it's implementing it is always not the easiest. So for us, for example, we really secured our cloud infrastructure, really gone above and beyond to make sure that we're protecting people's data and making sure that it's completely safe, secure, and private, making sure that we adhere to international gold standards such as HIPAA, which is the benchmark for protecting health information and data. And also, interesting to move into the future with blockchain and try to connect a very fragmented, siloed healthcare system and make sure that data and records are kept true and safe, and ensuring that encryption, multi-factor authentication, and all these other technologies are built into our platform as well as every other health tech platform.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. I mean, with blockchain, one of the great things about it is obviously the anonymity that it provides users of a particular feature. So is that something that Handy Health also has incorporated? So it's very much a case of, unless we specifically pull a certain file with the express permission of our patient, for example, there's no way to potentially unfold that to get inside and delve into the blockchain?
So blockchain is one of our long-term goals that we're definitely working towards. Right now, we've already incorporated all the HIPAA policies and procedures, as well as our cloud infrastructure to make sure our data is really safe and secure, but definitely working toward incorporating blockchain to make sure we're even more secure.
Yeah, wonderful. And Stephanie, just before I let you go, I thought it'd be very interesting, given your space in the medtech world here. What do you make of the New South Wales government's attempted vaccine passport rollout? Obviously, you've actually got a successful health app here that is working and functioning properly, whereas we don't exactly quite have that here in this state. So yeah, what do you find in terms of the tech aspect, how that's working, and also, I suppose, in an ethical perspective as well? What's your take on the vaccine passport?
That's a great question. I think, now with the goals of New South Wales and the Australian government to open and reach their vaccination targets, I think it's a great incentive, and it's a great thing to get into. Again, it's maintaining the privacy and security of the data, which I've spoken to so many people about is their number one concern. And I think also the usability. I know a lot of my older family members, sometimes trying to work out the QR codes and adding it to Apple Wallet and things like that is not always intuitive. So I think, building in the functionality, like I said, to target every age group is going to be really important for them.
And on the ethical side of things, so you're comfortable with how that's been done? Because I know we've talked a lot about the privacy, for example, of individual users. Obviously, this is something that sort of circumvents, I suppose, that whole process, given we've got to share some sort of medical information to get into a certain venue. Is that a concern for you as a medical professional?
No, I wouldn't say it is. I think, we want to make sure that all our citizens are safe, for ourselves. And it's a really good point that you actually bring out, because a lot of people going, into this sense of freedom who actually have very serious chronic health conditions are actually very worried. I've spoken to a lot of patients, who have cancer and other very serious conditions, and they're not actually happy to come back into the real world. So I think taking these extra steps to make sure that everyone is safe and protected is really, really important.
Look, it certainly is a strange world at the moment, but fortunately with apps like yours, we're making a bit more sense of it. Stephanie, great to chat with you today on the Tech Beat.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's Stephanie Mascarenas, the CEO of Handy Health, and you can catch the whole interview on our YouTube channel shortly, so make sure you subscribe just in case you missed any part of that. Time now for a very short break on the Tech Beat. Hi there, James Preston for Cowkind TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. Cowkind's Tech Beat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Thursday on the Tech Beat, exclusive to Cowkind TV. Welcome back to the Tech Beat, exclusive to Cowkind TV. I'm your tech guy, James Preston, and it's time now to delve into cybersecurity with our resident expert, Vikram Sareen. Vikram has 21 years worth of experience with technology, business, innovation and commercialization. He holds multiple awarded patents and has successfully commercialized multiple B2B business enterprises and products throughout these 20 years. He is, of course, also the CEO and founder of Bluebricks, who have been at the forefront of the identity-based digital information security and payment market for nearly 8 years. So let's now welcome Vikram to the show. It's great to have you back here, my friend.
Yes, I look forward to have another interesting conversation and share some exciting stuff that we guys are doing. Yeah, but good to see you again.
Look, we always have an exciting conversation, that is for sure, Vikram. Now, for those who aren't exactly across what Bluebricks does, take us through it.
It's a niche cybersecurity product company. So we essentially focus on solving problems when it comes to application data and identity. So as everything is getting into digital world, so we guys are the ones who help you make sure that it's protected. So we make sure that 99.9% of cyber attacks that can happen to you and your organization, so we protect from that. So that's in a nutshell. Yeah.
Well, look, you guys are well and truly the good guys. That's what I can take away from that one. Now, look, one thing that we've seen emerging over the past, I would say several years at this point, is that passwords have moved somewhat from being a gateway for online protection, but they're now actually inviting more and more cybersecurity attacks. And so whether it be blockchain technology or other forms of encryption, there is, I would say, gradually a more and more move away from the traditional notion of a password. Do you still think they have a role to play in present society, or is the time of the password well and truly done?
It's a very interesting question. See, passwords bring something that you know, and I think essentially that plays to the human element, that what you know is essentially what is the secret, right? But that again, gets broken down, in cyber attacks. It gets breached by, if you have a server getting breached, so millions of people get, their password gets leaked out. So it's not okay. It's not that bad that you shouldn't have a password. Password is good, but passwordless is great. And now the whole shift of paradigm from password to passwordless has been that it's been gradual, it's been organic. And I think most of the industry, in the cyber world, let it be cloud, let it be on-prem, enterprises, software vendors like us, what we realized was that we cannot rely for user to be, aware about cybersecurity. So how can we actually make it simple for them? And that is where passwordless, plays a good role, where your facial biometrics or your fingerprint, which is again, unique to you, becomes your authentication mechanism. So it's not that passwords are bad. Passwords can be complex. Passwords can have certain password policies, but bringing passwordless makes it much more seamless and much more easier for the users. And obviously, from a technology point of view, it's a much higher grade of security than can be offered. So that's the reason why I would say that shift towards passwordless is coming in, and it should come in because it makes it easy for the consumers, and yet it is strong in terms of the technical sense.
It's just crazy, isn't it? I mean, a lot of it seems like James Bond kind of stuff, where we've got to peel the fingerprint off and get into a special access for the iPhone, or John Travolta doing Face Off and the whole head comes off and all of a sudden we can access our devices. It's almost at that point now. But I mean, we're talking here about the shift from passwords to now, as you're talking about, a passwordless society. So do you see there being unique threats and challenges, though, to adopting a passwordless system?
Yes and no. I think any technology, starts from early adopters and then, becomes mainstream. So that is, I think, the same journey that password also has to make. And it's not something that has started now. It's already being talked about for last, 3 to 5 years. And there's a body called FIDO, FIDO. They are the ones who are driving that initiative. Now, in terms of take-up, there are two aspects. One is that most of the new devices and laptops which are coming in the market, so let it be your Windows or let it be your Macintosh or your Apple or your Android, or they all actually have some form of biometrics inbuilt, and most of them are coming out with what we call it as passwordless support. So you as an application owner, if let it be a bank, let it be a trading company, or a commerce portal, they can leverage on that particular aspect, and that's what we guys are bringing out as a product, to help the companies bridge that gap from users who have these devices to become passwordless and bring that extra security to these commerce portals or to these banks and everybody. So yes, it is coming up, it is catching up, but at the same time, the journey has to be made. Early adopters have already done that. Now it's getting into mainstream, and now I think within the next 3 to 5 years, it will become a norm. Like the way we talk about password right now, we will talk about, hey, do you have passwordless in place?
Well, look, one thing we've also seen, I think, as you say, there's early adopters. One of those is certainly banks who are looking at those, and financial institutions. These are the places that are looking to beef up their security, whether it be through encrypted passwords, which in a sense are somewhat passwordless, or even blockchain technology, which obviously obfuscates any potential threat for hackers. So how important would you say, given that they're the early adopters, is it for other companies that might have similar, I suppose, assets at stake that a bank might have? Is it very important for them to adopt this kind of technology as well?
I think more the merrier. The more security you have, the more you are making it difficult for hackers to get in, and definitely passwordless brings another new layer of protection. See, any large enterprise, even the I would say the medium or large enterprises, they do have certain level of security and process in place. So you would have your firewall, you would have your SIEMs, and many other products which are able to address to your threats, address to your vulnerabilities, address to your patches and stuff like that. But then obviously when you're talking about applications, that is where it becomes more critical and vulnerable, and especially if it's a human-driven aspect, and that's where I think passwordless addresses it very well. So what you're saying is very right. That blockchain is a way of making things much more stronger. Passwordless could be a complementary I would say authentication, mechanism that can be brought in to further fortify what you're doing. And it should not be not just limited to, banks, but it should be trying to trickle down any company that is having sensitive data. Because at the end of the day, we are protecting data, right? So authentication, if you have a strong authentication, you're able to protect your data better. So another term would be multi-factor authentication. So passwordless also facilitates that aspect. So passwordless brings you multi-factor authentication by default, and that's the beauty of it.
So how can Bluebricks, for example, help to, I suppose let's focus here on small, medium enterprises or even small businesses. This is probably an area which you guys are quite well versed in. How can you, for example, assist those kind of companies in making their data that much more secure?
Okay, that's good. So I can.
I've opened up a can of worms. Here we go. All right, let's dive in.
No, we have recently launched passwordless.com.au. So it is for any organization who is a commerce company or who's doing a lot of companies have WordPress as the way of keeping the data as a content management system. So we have a plugin for that which can bring passwordless for them. It's free right now, so they can go and check it out and use it.
Wow.
Then the whole idea is that any web mobile application can be protected using passwordless. And then also anybody who's using WordPress or Shopify for the commerce part, they can use passwordless. And also a bit more critical stuff like master visa card not present, kind of scenarios, you can also use passwordless. So passwordless.com.au is essentially for you to go ahead, add I would say passwordless into your application and give it out to your customers. So it could be your own employees or it could be your end customers, end users. You can give it out. So that's what Bluebricks is doing to help out SMEs address to their problem of moving away from passwords and still bringing passwordless as a very simple feature to use. Yeah. So that's something which everybody can check it out and use it for free.
Wonderful. I mean, it's nice and secure. That's exactly what we like. Now, Vikram, just before I let you go, what other updates and trends are you seeing emerging in the cybersecurity space in the world of tech more broadly?
Okay, I think regulators are getting very serious. So if you look at GDPR, and I think even Australia, we have much more strict, I would say revisions that have come in. And then other is CDR, which is, customer data rights. That I think in 2022, 2023 in Australia will become, very prominent. So that will help a lot of, further data privacy as well as identity verification and privacy, all these things getting addressed much better. I think internationally what has happened is that companies like Microsoft, they have also started talking about, giving passwordless for Office 365, which is a great thing. Even Facebook has also said that they will facilitate, passwordless going ahead. So not just passwordless, but in general, I think much more security and, much more, I would say, stronger, I would say, verification of the users, in terms of their identity and all that. So FIDO itself has come out with two standards, which is one for devices, because IoTs are very prominent now, and they need a much serious, look at security. So that standardization is happening as we speak. And also on the other hand, you have this, eKYC and KYC getting standardized internationally. How two companies, across borders or within the same borders, they can exchange data of a person's identity. So it does help in anti-money laundering, politically exposed people, stuff like that. So there is a lot happening in cybersecurity. Especially the focus has been that how we can bring more, compliance into play. And make sure that the consumer or customer's data is well protected and well respected, and that is more important, that you as a company cannot sell to others, you as a company cannot disclose to other companies and all that. So all those things are becoming very, very prominent. I can talk on this forever, but I think regulators and the tech itself is moving towards standardization, which helps over time for companies to actually enjoy, because once it becomes a standard, then it's easy for vendors like us to implement those standards and bring that to the to commercialization aspect and bring it out. So that's what is happening as we speak. So I think next 5 years will be very exciting, and a lot of good stuff will come. And definitely for good of the society.
Very true, and I love how you mentioned there's respect for the data. That's very important, because you're not going to steal something that you respect and also that you can't actually get into. Plus, Aretha Franklin would be very happy and she could sing R-E-S-P-E-C-T about tech now, which would just be fantastic. But Vikram, great to get your insights as always, mate. And look, hopefully we can catch up soon on the Tech Beat.
For sure. You have a good day and have a good week ahead also. Cheers, bye-bye.
You too. Vikram, thank you so much. That is Vikram Sareen, the CEO of Bluebricks. They're doing some fantastic work. Make sure to check out passwordless.com. Right, time now for a very short break on the Tech Beat. We'll come back and wrap it all up with our latest in tech news. Hi there, James Preston for Kalkine TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google, to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. Kalkine's Tech Beat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Thursday on the Tech Beat, exclusive to Kalkine TV. Welcome back to the Tech Beat. I'm James Preston. Let's now take a look at this week's top tech news, beginning with a landmark partnership between Australia and NASA. Australia is officially heading to the moon, with the Morrison government reaching an agreement with NASA for an Australian-made rover to be included in a future mission. Leading Australian businesses and researchers will come together to develop the rover, backed by $50 million in funding from the Trailblazer program in the government's Moon to Mars initiative. The semi-autonomous rover will collect lunar soil, and it will have a focus in particular for soil that contains oxides, which will also be using separate equipment to obtain such a thing, and NASA will aim to extract oxygen as well from the samples. This is a crucial step towards establishing a sustainable human presence on the moon and potentially supporting future missions to Mars. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Australia's mission to the moon would grow our economy in our COVID-19 recovery and also to help create more jobs for Australians. Under the agreement, NASA will fly the rover to the moon as early as 2026, provided it meets a range of conditions during its development. Now, with New South Wales businesses reopening on Monday and customers required to show a vaccine passport, the rise of fake passports has come to the fore. New South Wales government's digital vaccine passport has still yet to complete its trials and is presently unavailable to the majority of the public, meaning vaccine enforcement comes down to somewhat of an honour system. Once it does go public, it will allow people to simultaneously check into a venue and confirm their vaccination status, but it isn't expected to go live before October 18. It's currently being trialled by around 500 people across Wagga Wagga, Lismore, Tamworth and also Port Macquarie. Victoria's vaccine passport was launched on Monday, despite the state still being in lockdown, allowing 200,000 people to link their Medicare vaccine certificate to their Service Victoria app. It gives them the ability to prove their vaccination status to businesses using the state's QR code system. It's expected to be rolled out once the state hits 80% of the population being double jabbed, which should occur on November 5. But security expert Vanessa Teague from the Australian National University said both the New South Wales and Victoria medical vaccine passports and Medicare certificates don't prove anything, which makes it hard to justify checking them when they can be easily fabricated. There are many businesses as well across the country who have vowed not to check passports on ethical grounds of discrimination towards unvaccinated people, maintaining that the bulk of unvaccinated individuals are the same people who advocated against such harsh restrictions that forced the closures of businesses in the first place. And lastly, turning our attention now to Apple. They've announced that they will hold a second fall keynote event on Monday, October 18th, which should be titled the Unleashed event and is expected to focus on new high-end MacBook Pro models and also AirPods. It comes about a month after Apple unveiled the iPhone 13, iPad mini 6 and other products at its September 14 California streaming event. As with Apple's keynotes during the pandemic, the event will likely be pre-recorded but then broadcast live. So, what can we expect from Apple's Unleashed event? Well, Apple refreshed its iPhone, iPad and Apple Watch families back in September, but some pending updates are still on the way for Macs and AirPods. Most notably, Apple is likely to debut a new 14-inch MacBook Pro and a 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is equipped with an upgraded Apple Silicon chip. The devices are also rumoured to support mini LED backlighting, upgraded cameras, and the possibility of additional port options. Alongside the new MacBook Pro models, Apple could also unveil a refreshed Mac Mini with a new chassis design, additional colour options, expanded port selection, and the Apple's earlier mentioned silicon chip, which is likely to be the M1X. Apple may also issue updates for its MacBook Air and iMac lineups. As for the desktop model, a device with a larger screen may well be on the cards. As for AirPods, Apple is expected to debut them at a lower cost model, much like the Apple AirPods Pro, but this time without the active noise cancellation. Alright, well that's all for this edition of the Tech Beat. Hope you enjoyed the program, and until next time, remember to keep your head in the iCloud and take a gigabyte out of life.